Becoming a pet parent means willingly trading in your comfort, your neat home, and often your sleep for the sake of a creature who gives you unconditional love. From the moment you bring them home, everything starts to change. Your couch will never be free of fur again, no matter how much you vacuum. Your floors will occasionally be covered in muddy paw prints, your bed will suddenly have less space, and your once flawless routine will now revolve around feeding schedules, walks, and unpredictable bursts of energy or neediness from your pet. But for most pet parents, those sacrifices become part of the love story. They're reminders of the vibrant, sometimes chaotic life you've chosen to share with your animal. Late-night wake-up calls are part of the package. Whether it's a whimper at 3 a.m. because they need to go outside, or a restless night because they're sick or scared, your sleep often comes second. Some nights you'll find yourself pacing the living room with a restless dog or comforting a cat who's yowling at shadows. You adjust, not because you have to, but because your love for them makes you want to. Even when you're exhausted, you find the strength to care for them, to reassure them, to keep them safe and comfortable. Cleanliness becomes relative. You get used to pet hair on your clothes, scratches on your furniture, no smudges on windows, and the occasional unpleasant surprise on the carpet. You might grumble for a second, but you clean it up and move on, because it's part of the deal. Your pet doesn't know how to say thank you, but they show it in their own way through wagging tails, soft purrs, excited eyes, or just curling up beside you when they sense you're tired. And yet, despite all these daily sacrifices, there's a quiet joy in it. You realize that your priorities shift not out of obligation, but out of love. You don't mind the mess because the house feels more alive. You don't mind the exhaustion because you're not alone. You find happiness in their happiness, even when it costs you convenience or sleep. Their presence becomes a source of comfort that overshadows the stress, and even in the chaos, there's a sense of peace in knowing you're exactly where you're meant to be. As a pet parent, your daily routine quickly becomes centered around the needs and rhythms of your furry companion. What used to be a flexible schedule becomes a carefully choreographed dance of feeding times, bathroom breaks, exercise, play, and quiet bonding moments. You start waking up earlier, not because you have to, but because your dog's tail is thumping against the bed, or your cat is meowing at the door for breakfast. Morning walks replace leisurely starts to the day, and your evenings are structured around making sure your pet gets enough attention before bedtime. Planning even the simplest outings begins to include your pet in the equation. You check the clock before leaving the house, calculating how long you'll be gone and whether it's too long for them to be alone. Quick trips to the grocery store or last-minute social plans require a mental checklist. Did they eat? Did they go outside? Will they be okay while I'm out? Suddenly, spontaneous decisions take a back seat to ensuring your pet's comfort and safety. You begin turning down plans or rearranging commitments because you don't want them to feel lonely, scared, or neglected. Vacations and overnight stays take on a whole new layer of complexity. It's no longer just about booking a flight or hotel. Now you're researching pet-friendly accommodations or trying to find a trustworthy sitter. You might even skip trips entirely because you can't bear the idea of leaving them behind. Every holiday, weekend getaway, or even a full day away from home becomes something that must be carefully coordinated around their well-being. Even your personal habits adapt. Meals are sometimes eaten standing up because your dog is begging with big eyes or your cat jumps on the table. You go for walks more often not just for them, but because it's become your shared routine. Your screen time is interrupted by paw taps, playful nudges, or guilty stares until you finally put the phone down and give them the attention they're silently asking for. Every part of your day, morning, noon, and night starts to include them by default. It's not something you consciously decide. It just happens, slowly and naturally, until one day you realize you built an entire lifestyle around the heartbeat at your feet. One of the most profound experiences in pet parenting is discovering how deeply you can communicate with a creature who doesn't speak your language. Over time, you begin to understand their emotions, needs, and moods with surprising clarity. It starts with simple cues: a certain bark that means hunger, a tail wag that signals excitement, a slow blink from a cat that tells you they feel safe. But as the bond deepens, you begin to read the smallest signs without even realizing it. The tilt of their head, the way their ears move, the pacing of their steps, each detail becomes part of an unspoken language that only the two of you understand. This silent form of communication builds trust. They learn your routines, your voice, your energy, and your expressions just as much as you learn theirs. Your dog knows when you're sad and comes to lay their head on your lap. Your cat senses your stress and quietly curls up next to you, offering companionship without the need for words. It's a relationship based on observation, consistency, and emotional awareness, something so natural that it feels like second nature after a while. You begin to speak in ways they understand, not through perfect commands or training tricks, but through tone, body language, and timing. You know when to use a calm voice to soothe them, or a firm one to set boundaries. You learn that squatting down to their level makes you less intimidating, that extended eye contact can either reassure or confuse depending on their temperament. Every interaction becomes a dance of mutual understanding, where both of you are constantly adjusting to each other's signals. Even the silence between you speaks volumes. Sitting together in the same room, without touching or talking, becomes a form of bonding. A shared look, a sigh, a stretch, they all carry meaning. You begin to cherish these subtle exchanges because they are pure, uncomplicated, and deeply real. There's something incredibly powerful about being able to love and be loved without the need for a single word. It creates a connection that is intimate, calming, and unlike any other kind of relationship you've had. It teaches you to slow down, to pay attention, and to feel more than you speak. Being a pet parent means embracing an emotional journey filled with highs and lows that touch the deepest parts of your heart. The joy pets bring is unlike anything else. The excitement in their eyes when you come home, the goofy things they do that make you laugh out loud, the peaceful feeling of having them curled up next to you after a long day. These moments become the highlights of your routine, small but powerful bursts of happiness that remind you what it means to be present and connected. Their affection is pure and unfiltered, and that kind of love brightens even the darkest days. But the emotional connection isn't just about joy. It also includes worrying, stress, and heartbreak. You panic when they get sick, feel helpless when they're in pain, and obsess over every symptom or change in behavior. A skipped meal or limp in their walk is enough to send your thoughts spiraling. The responsibility you carry is heavy because you know they can't tell you what's wrong, and it's up to you to notice and act. That weight never leaves. It becomes part of your daily awareness, always in the background, always guiding your decisions. Then there are the moments that catch you off guard. You find yourself crying because they looked at you a certain way, or feeling an overwhelming rush of gratitude when they rest their head on your lap. Their innocence, their dependence on you, and the simplicity of their trust can stir emotions you didn't even know you had. It's not just about caring for an animal, it's about sharing your life with someone who feels like your soul companion, someone who brings out the most tender, protective, and selfless parts of you. As they age, the emotional ride only intensifies. You celebrate their milestones and remember the little moments that defined your journey together. You become more aware of time, more grateful for each day, more emotional about every wag, purr, or nuzzle. The thought of losing them can be unbearable, but even that fear is rooted in love so deep it's worth every ache. This emotional roller coaster filled with joy, fear, pride, sorrow, and overwhelming love becomes a defining part of what it means to be a pet parent. It shapes the way you see the world, how you experience connection, and how you value life in its purest, most honest form. Being a pet parent doesn't just change your daily habits, it reshapes who you are on the inside. The responsibilities you take on when you care for an animal push you to grow in ways you never expected. You learn to be more patient, especially during those early days of training, adjusting, and learning each other's rhythms. You develop empathy by tuning into their emotions and physical needs, realizing that even without words, they communicate so much. Their vulnerability teaches you to be more observant, more compassionate, and more gentle in your approach to life, not just with them, but with people too. The sense of responsibility you take on is deep and personal. You're no longer living just for yourself, you're now the caretaker of a life that depends on you for food, safety, health, and emotional security. That responsibility demands maturity and commitment. You start thinking ahead, budgeting differently, managing time more effectively, and making decisions that always take their well-being into account. The selflessness it takes to show up for them every single day, even when you're tired, stressed, or emotionally drained, becomes a daily exercise in personal growth. Pets have a way of revealing your strengths and exposing your flaws. They reflect your energy, respond to your moods, and teach you to be more present. You begin to notice how your tone affects them, how your stress can make them anxious, and how your calm can soothe them. These lessons in emotional regulation and mindfulness become part of your identity. They make you more aware of your impact on others, not just animals but people, too. You become more considerate, more intuitive, and more emotionally intelligent. Their unconditional love creates a mirror that shows you what it means to love and be loved without conditions. You don't have to be perfect for your pet. They love you when you're sad, when you're a mess, when you're not your best self. That kind of acceptance teaches you to soften toward yourself, to be more forgiving, and to embrace the imperfections in others. Over time, their presence changes the way you view relationships, kindness, loyalty, and trust. You start carrying those lessons with you into every part of your life, finding that the love you give and receive from your pet has quietly, but profoundly, made you a better version of yourself. 8. Pet parenting is far from a casual pastime. It's a full-time, round-the-clock responsibility that reshapes your entire lifestyle. When you decide to bring a pet into your home, you're not just adding a companion. You're accepting a new family member who will depend on you for everything. Unlike hobbies you can pick up or set aside when life gets busy, being a pet parent means showing up every single day, regardless of your mood, your workload, or your plans. It means being the one who wakes up early to take them for a walk, even when you'd rather sleep in. The one who rearranges your schedule for vet appointments, the one who keeps an eye on their water bowl, food intake, and subtle changes in behavior that might signal something's wrong. There are no real off days in pet parenting. Whether you're tired from work, stressed about life, or simply not feeling your best, your pet still needs you. Their feeding times don't wait for your energy to return. Their medical needs can't be postponed for a more convenient day. Their emotional needs, affection, play, reassurance are constant. You become their whole world, and they rely on you for everything: food, health, safety, and love. You can't just decide to skip responsibilities without it affecting their well-being. Being a pet parent also means anticipating their needs before they even arise. You stock up on food before it runs out. You learn what toys they love, what scares them, what soothes them. You adjust your environment to keep them safe, securing wires, keeping toxic foods out of reach, and making your home a place where they can thrive. It also means being prepared for emergencies at any time of the day or night, with no warning and often at high emotional and financial cost. You'll clean up messes at 2 a.m., cancel plans because they're sick, or sit on the floor beside them when they're scared during a thunderstorm. This level of responsibility changes how you view the world. It requires a type of selflessness and maturity that not everyone is prepared for. The fun moments and cuddles are amazing, but they exist alongside the discipline, the planning, and the constant alertness that comes with knowing another life depends entirely on you.